Hello, everybody. I'm Toby Brockner, founder and owner of V Squared Creative. I am happy to present the one and only live blabber Jennifer Quinn from the Daily Q Show. I'm really excited to have her. This is my first guest that I've ever had on the Daily Toby Show, or whatever we're going to call it, ending up. But I'm really glad to have Jennifer on.
You're jacking my name. You're jacking my show name.
Yeah, well, I try to steal good ideas where possible. So, but I'm really glad you decided to join me. Little background. Jennifer had me on her Blab show, the very first one, episode 1, season 1. I was on the Daily Blab, the Daily Q Show, and we had a really good time. And I thought, I want to do some similar format of some sort. And Jennifer encouraged me and said that I should go for it. So here we are. And I thought, hey, what better way to break the ice than to have Jen on with me? So thank you for being here, Jennifer. I appreciate it.
Turnabout is fair play, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. No, I'm actually excited to be here, and I'm excited about what you're doing.
Good. Thank you. Jennifer and I met originally on Twitter, which is kind of cool because I try to meet people that I know online in an offline capacity as much as possible. That's one of my own personal kind of marketing strategies, is to try to take online relationships offline and vice versa, offline to online where possible, and build those relationships. So that's where we met originally, was on Twitter. We kind of got to know each other. We started doing business together in various capacities, and here we are, friends and colleagues, and ready to take on the world, so to speak. So Jennifer, tell me a little bit about what you've got going on, the businesses that you run, the things that you're doing, and some of the things that you're most excited about.
So when we first met, I think I was just launching my youbeing.social.com, which is a social media management business. And then also at about the same time, I was a co-author on a book that had just come out, which is a parenting book. So I've kind of been doing those simultaneously for the last 3 years. But recently, live streaming has completely taken my attention with Periscope and Blab. Blab isn't technically live streaming. I don't think they really have a category for it. I don't even know what would you call it. I think it's more like video conferencing.
Yeah, it is. The difference between that and video conferencing is normally one-to-one, where this is one to potentially thousands, where it's a live stream on the internet that anybody can tune into. And video conferencing like this, you'd have to be kind of invited.
Gotcha. Okay, so fair enough. So it's a different where do you put it?
Yeah, it's kind of a quasi video conference / live stream, but it's really cool. If you guys haven't heard of it, blab.im. It's a new platform that allows you to do something similar like this, where you can jump on and talk to different people about various things. But the key is all of your Twitter followers and whoever else is on Blab can watch you live. So it's really a kind of a powerful tool. So how are you using Blab? Just tell everybody kind of what you're doing there with Blab.
Okay, so when I first hopped on Blab, and everybody has a different experience of it, and it's used for so many different things. The technology is so new that there's no really wrong way to use it. But what made sense to me was to interview people. And the weird thing is, I've never interviewed people before, but when I saw Blab, and and I'm new to having a microphone there, but when I saw Blab and I just saw the format, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to start interviewing people, because I've always been fascinated with people and what makes people tick and how they think. In fact, that's why I even started on Twitter. When I first saw Twitter, I just delved into it almost obsessively, so because I wanted to understand the psychology behind it, why people were using it, what made somebody go online and type something in 140 characters or less to connect with other people. And so when I first went on to Blab, it made sense to me. Now I could actually talk to people and find out why they were doing what they were doing.
Right.
So, yeah.
So, and you were on Twitter from the early days,
So I think so. I think 2008, maybe 2007.
And when did Twitter come out? It was like '06, '05,
Yeah,
maybe?
it wasn't. I don't know. I don't. It was around there. Like the reason I even knew about Twitter is I was watching CNN and Rick Sanchez was on and he was just talking and yeah, whatever, broadcasting the news
Yeah.
or whatever he did. And he said, if you have any thoughts on this, tweet me at Rick Sanchez CNN. And I was like, tweet you? What is he talking about? So
Yeah.
I literally opened my laptop right then and there, set up my Twitter account, and sent him a tweet, and he didn't respond, and I was pretty annoyed. Didn't he know who I was? but but then I was really hooked. Really, that's what hooked me to social media.
All right, good. So you've been doing the social media side for a while with You Being Social.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of what you do there too?
So, You Being Social, we do social media management for small to mid-sized businesses. I just have a soft place in my heart for small business owners because I've been one, and my whole family, and I just feel like it's a little bit of a different niche than the big brands, a different approach, really.
Yeah, more
Yeah, a
personable.
little bit. What?
More personable.
Yeah. And so, over the years, we've had clients that range from authors launching their books to CPAs to a network marketing company, just all different clients who are just wanting to get into the social media landscape, but don't have a clue how to do it, and further, don't even want to know. So.
Right. Yeah. I think that's one of the first things we did together was you helped launch my social media accounts, my Twitter and all of
Right.
that when I wrote my first book and was kind of trying to get that out.
Yeah.
I think you helped me on that as well. So cool. So, okay, let's shift gears a little bit then. You got You Being Social, you've got the Blab, the Daily Q show, and those are two really kind of different animals. So I want to talk about some of the marketing that you do for each one of those, and you can pick whichever one you want to do first. But I'm kind of interested in how and what you do to market yourself or your businesses and what you found to be most useful in the time that you've been running your small business.
So I think marketing, especially, because we've had this conversation before, old school, marketing, new school. Wait, what do you say? You're not old media, you're not new
Yeah,
media.
yeah. My tagline is I'm not old media versus new media. I'm whatever works media.
Right. And I love that. But I think all of it, the basis is building relationships.
Absolutely.
And so whichever way you can build relationships the most effectively and the most naturally for you is the way you should go.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so, yeah, and so for me, social media was natural. For me, Blab is natural. For me, live streaming is natural, and so I'm building relationships that way.
Okay.
So then building relationships, and I'm not sure if it's just the marketing people who say this all the time, or if everybody says this all the time. But I hang around with mostly marketing people. But you do business with people that you know, like, and trust. So the more any business owner can show who they really are and connect with people, the better it will be because people will know and hopefully like and hopefully trust them.
And so you're doing this on a wider scale. So you're leveraging social because there's a lot of small business, and I deal with small business owners every day myself, and I know there are a lot of small business owners who have brick and mortar stores or they've got service-based businesses that are localized, and they're a little, and in some cases, very skeptical of social media. How do I get a return on my social media? How do I monetize it? And those seem to be the questions kind of forefront in their minds. And it seems like with what you're doing, you're able to kind of bridge that gap between just go out and set up a Twitter account or a Facebook page or a LinkedIn profile and building relationships. You seem to have bridged that gap. So how do you do that? How would you, if a small business owner came to you and said, I don't know how to use social, I don't know if it'll work for me, what do you say in that regard?
So bridging the gap. Okay, so every company, every person, every brand has their own unique voice. And it starts with, the mission or the vision of the company, right? And so what I would do is get in touch with what that voice is and be conversational across the social media platforms in that voice. And I'm not even sure that I'm answering the exact question that you're asking, but I know that it's important to relate person to person. Brian Kramer, actually, he was a guest on my show. He wrote a book called Shareology, and then his first book was Human to Human. And so, he said there's no more B2B, there's no more B2C, it's all H2H. It's all human to human. And I think there was a period in marketing, especially when social media started, that we got lost on the human to human. So, right? So when we were growing up, it was all human to human, right? Or, I mean, because all you had was a yellow book and some, the phone book, or newspaper ads, right? And then or people walking into your store. So that was human to human contact right there, primarily human to human. Then we got into the digital space, and then it became are you B2B or B2C? Are you B2B or B2C? What's your business? And so I love what Brian Kramer did. He brought it back around. He's like, no, it's H2H. And so H2H is no different than when we meet at a coffee shop and we have coffee and we're talking. You take that exact exchange and move it online, and then you're doing it either through Twitter, through Facebook, through whatever your thing is. And every social media platform has a different culture too. So the things that I do on Twitter aren't the same things that I would do on Facebook, and definitely not the same things that I would do on LinkedIn, because there's different best practices for each platform.
Yeah, every platform has its own kind of unique way of approaching it, and I like that, because I'm a big believer too. I think one of the problems we have, and it's not just with social media, this sort of happens as business owners in general. We start to see people as prospects or potential clients. One guy that I follow very closely, he refers to his customer base as a herd. And to talk about building a fence around his herd, and uses the analogy so they don't escape and get out. And to me, impersonalizing people, I don't know if that's a word. Impersonalizing people, though.
If it's not, it really should be.
I just made it up. But when you make things that impersonal, it makes it really hard to connect with people on a more human level. And I think that one of the things that knocks against social media is that it tends to depersonalize some of those interactions and those relationships. But I think that's a choice. I think that the people that think that way are doing that maybe subconsciously. They're not intentionally doing it, but that because of the way they even describe their customers as maybe a herd or as Johns or whatever you want to call them. It tends to have a depersonalization effect on that business and the way they interact with people.
Absolutely. Recently, I was in New York City for the Periscope Summit. Periscope's one of the new live streaming apps. And one of the keynote speakers, Brian Fanzo, he said something that was so perfect. He said, if you suck offline, you're going to suck online. All you can do is be who you are. And so when I first started with Periscope, and then especially Blab, for me, Blab bumped it up a notch. Because on Periscope, for those maybe who don't know, because live streaming is just brand new.
Yeah, for sure.
So apps like Periscope and Meerkat, it's social media, because there's a little bit of two-way, because you have the person. So basically it would look like this, right? I'm looking into my phone and I'm broadcasting, right? So people are seeing my face, if that's my choice of broadcast, right? And then people can log in and they can leave comments. So technically it's social media, because there's two-way communication. But what happened is on Blab, it was like on steroids, because now it's not just comments coming, and a broadcaster on Periscope can choose to skip past comments, right, and overlook comments and block people. But now you're on Blab and you can have up to 4 people, and there's real-time interaction. And I was like, this is the coolest thing ever, because now people can no longer hide behind their social media profiles, because you can hire the best marketer or the best PR people to make you look amazing on social media profiles. And you can't do that anymore on apps like Periscope, and even more so on Blab.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny too, because we're talking about all these different platforms, and that's a whole other conversation that we could have about how overwhelming it could be.
Sorry, did I take it somewhere you don't want to
No,
go?
I'm just saying this
Right.
is I'm trying to view this from the viewpoint of a small business owner, and our heads have got to be all swimming, because it's like there's so many different things. But I think what you're trying to say, and kind of one of the big takeaways I'd like to have for this interview, is that you have to be comfortable in the social media platform that you're comfortable in. You can't
Yes.
force
Yeah.
it. You can't make it be somebody that you're not. It's almost cliche now to be authentic, and it's almost overused. But it's true. It's a cliche because it's true.
Mm.
We have to be comfortable within those things. So if Twitter makes you uncomfortable, you shouldn't be there. And
But can I throw something in here?
Yeah.
If Twitter makes you uncomfortable and you're not going to be there, delete your profile.
yeah, don't have it. Don't be half in and half out.
Right, because here's why. From a business standpoint, okay? For example, I love Twitter. And if I hear about this guy, Toby Brockner, who has his company V Squared, and he's amazing, I'm going to go look first on Twitter because that's my playground.
Yeah.
If I find a profile for V Squared that hasn't had a tweet in even, honestly, 5 days, it's not going to look good. But let's say 3 months, I'm like, he's probably not serious about his business.
Let me tweet something really quick from the V Squared account.
But you see my point?
Yeah,
But if there
yeah.
was no V Squared on Twitter, I would then Google V Squared.
Yeah.
Or I would go to Facebook, or I would go to LinkedIn.
Yeah, and that's a whole other conversation in itself too, because it's like it used to be offline and online marketing, and now we're so into our phones and so into the online platforms, it's all just sort of all encompassing. Because and on your Blab earlier today, I mentioned the comment we were talking about SEO and how people search, and made a comment about how that's almost the death knell for these brick and mortar companies, where people are going into their stores. They're price shopping on their phone on Amazon.
Yes.
They're getting a feel for the product and seeing how it operates, putting it back on the shelf, and then ordering it online from Amazon.
Yeah.
And if you're not online, you're going to get crushed if
Yeah.
you're not keeping up with that sort of consumer behavior. And so it's a huge problem, can be a potential problem.
So can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
So do you think then that makes it even more important for the brick and mortar stores to ramp up their customer service, like, on the spot?
Or be more creative in what they're doing. Maybe have an instant price match. So if somebody brings their phone to
Ooh.
the checkout counter and they say, look, on Amazon it's $19.99 and you've got it for $24.99, we price match it right there. And we give the checkers and the people who are responsible, the lower level tier employees, we give them the responsibility and the capability of doing that.
I can't remember the store, but I was at a store where they did that.
Yeah, and that's the only way they're going to be able to compete.
Mm-hmm.
And because they've got all these overhead costs, whatever, that's a whole other deal. So let me.
So far, we've branched out into 4 or 5 other topics.
Well, that's marketing for you. That's what happens is you go down one rabbit hole and you never come out.
Right.
It's all over the place, and everything is so interconnected and overlapping now that you can't help but cross over and change topics and go all these different ways. And so that's part of the challenge for these small business owners, is keeping kind of track of all that, which is what I'm trying to kind of want to narrow it down and say, look, if you're not comfortable with A, B, or C, but you are with D and E, then you only should be doing D and E. Don't worry about A, B, and C. Let's just focus on D and E and get those running and get comfortable
Absolutely.
and profitable on those channels or whatever it may be. So we were supposed to do this for like 20 minutes, and it's been like 25 minutes already. That went really fast, huh? But I want to keep going because I have something else that I want to ask you that I think I'm always fascinated to know who people follow or who they look to for advice in their own business. So are there any people that kind of really stand out to you thought leader wise, or people that have written books maybe, or you've heard speak or whatever, that you can point to and say, that's the guy or girl that I follow to my dying day, besides me?
Oh, good. I'm glad you included that one so that, yeah. So here's the deal. I wish I could say there was one person, and there's not. There's a lot of people.
Hmm.
I love it when I hear people go, "Oh my gosh, I follow Gary V, and everything he says, I do." I
Yeah.
think that's so cool. I just don't have anybody like that because I like to look at each person's specialty. Maybe there might be one thing from one person that I'm like, I'm going to emulate that, or I'm going to incorporate that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I can tell you, so I can tell you some of the people, and
Okay.
and it's going to be very myopic at this point because I'm so focused on live streaming that right now I'm following most people who are a couple months ahead of me on live
And
streaming.
it's probably evolved as your career has evolved.
Yeah, for sure. But so I mentioned Brian Kramer already, but he's more social media than live streaming. And the reason that I like Brian Kramer is because he walks the talk. He writes the book, but then if you send him a tweet, he's going to reply.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
yeah. Um, and so then there's an up and comer named Brian Fanzo, and it's not, you don't have to have the name Brian for me to think you're cool either, but it's just kind of worked that way. So, and Brian Fanzo, I mentioned him, he was the keynote at Periscope Summit. The reason that I like Brian Fanzo's stuff is because he is working his off. Like, he is out there killing it. And I noticed him long before live streaming because he was killing it. And now, he talks about being real. He talks about um, sharing and giving and just all those things. I mean, it's really all of the things we've learned our whole lives that are now we have a magnifying glass on it. It's
Right.
all the things you learned in kindergarten. Be nice, share with others.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. So sorry, I don't have just one
No,
pat
that's good. That's good. I mean, yeah, you're right. If you're only following one person, you have a very limited view of the world because there's so much out there that and so many different people we can learn from. So good. Last question before we wrap it up. What is and you can answer this. You don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but it always interests me. What is
Right.
one thing that most people don't know about you that they would find probably interesting if they did know?
Nothing. Well, I mean,
Come on, there's got to be something.
like if you said the part that you said that they would find interesting if they knew, I'm like, oh, nothing. Scratch that off. Maybe it's interesting that I lived in Europe for 3 years. I don't know. Most people don't know
See, and
that.
I didn't even know that. Where did you live?
In Belgium.
I didn't know. Do you speak Belgian?
No,
Like,
and
is that the language?
well, actually, southern Belgium speaks French, and
Okay.
northern Belgium speaks Flemish, which is a combination of French and Dutch. And the answer is no. I can order French fries with tartar sauce in French, and I can order chocolate eclairs in French, and
I can
beyond.
order a, a, a I can order a Whopper with cheese in French.
Let's hear it. Bring it.
Royale with cheese.
Cheese isn't.
See, you didn't get that reference. Anybody who loves Pulp Fiction like I do will get that reference immediately.
No. I don't. I here's another. I don't remember movies.
Oh no, it's not. It's not a Whopper. It's a quarter pounder.
Okay.
And the reason that they don't have a term for quarter pounder is because they use the metric system.
Right. Which we were all misled to believe that we would also be using the metric system right now. Didn't
Okay.
happen.
So, is there anything else you want to add? How do people get in touch with you if they want to check you out on Blab or Twitter or wherever?
Yeah. So Twitter, Blab, and Periscope, I'm at Jenny Q, Jenny and the letter Q,
Q.
Jenny
Okay.
Q.
At Jenny Q. And I would encourage you guys to tune into her Blab show. It's daily at 1:15 Mountain Time. She has some pretty fascinating people on there, and I'm not just saying that because she's had me on the show, but she has had some really
But it
great
did
people.
start with the most fascinating, right?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, thank you. No, I'm having a blast.
Yeah, well, thank you for doing this interview. I really appreciate it. How did it feel being the interviewee instead of the interviewer?
It was an interesting experience. It's a
different, huh?
little it is a little nervous. It's like, what's he gonna ask? What am I gonna say? Yeah. I like being on your side better.
I like being on your side better. Imagine that.
Perfect.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you for tuning in to the Daily Toby Show. I'm going to have to come up with a better name than that.
Yeah. You can't hijack my name.
Yeah, but if you want to find us, we're at vsquarecreative.com. I'm at Toby Brockner on Twitter, Toby Brockner on Facebook and LinkedIn as well. And Toby is Tobe. Most people spell it with a Y. Incorrect. But thanks for coming to the Daily Toby Show and joining us with Jenny Q. And thank you, Jennifer, for being on.
No, thank you. I'm honored.
Okay, bye-bye.